Okay, I'm going to go through the Illustrator Skills Worksheet 2. I'm going to do it line by line so that you can skip forward to specific lines if you need to. So first is the setup. We're in Adobe Illustrator. File, New. Your size, you want to do US letter. Your units are inches. Your orientation is tall or portrait. Hit OK. Now you go to File, Place. You want to place the JPEG I've given you, AIskills2.jpg, and you want to use your transform tools or your transform palette to make sure that this X and Y positions are at 0 and 0. Now, it just pasted in at 0, 0 for me, but just to show you, it may come in just slightly off, something like that. Make sure that you push it up into the top left corner and make sure that your X and Y are at 0, 0. Go to your Layers palette. In your Layers palette, you can double-click this and call it JPEG or Placed Art or Template. Template is probably a good one. And then lock it. This is important. Lock that layer. Now I can't do anything with that layer. I need to make a new layer. And you can call this Art, or I'm going to call it the Worksheet. All right? You want to save this as AIskills2 your name. And just save it as an AI file. So make sure that your worksheet layer or your top layer is unlocked. And you want to go to your type tool. And do your name, Illustrator Skills Worksheet 2, and the date. Today's date is 16th of March, 2015. Of course, you put in your current date. I believe that I used Helvetica for these labels. I'm not super concerned that you match the labels exactly. And in fact, throughout this worksheet, I'm not super concerned that things are an absolutely exact match. I'm more concerned that you get the basic skills down. So you want to save this. That's your basic setup. Now we are good to go. So now we're going to do line 1. Line 1 are just basic shapes created with the shape tools. So first we go to the rectangle tool. We click once to get the size dialog box. We want 0.75 inches wide by 1 inch tall. Hit OK. There we go. Easy peasy. Ellipse tool for number 2 for our circle. It's 1 inch in diameter, so that means 1 inch wide, 1 inch tall. Hit OK. Try to line them up as best you can. But don't panic if it's not absolutely precise. Again, you're going to hide the template layer. When you're done, I just want to see that you understand these basic concepts of using Illustrator. Triangle tool. you do a triangle with the polygon tool. Click it once. This one's a little tricky because it's asking for a radius, which is from the center out. And I've given you a height of 1 inch from the apex to the bottom. So you kind of have to wing it. Put in a radius of 0.6, and this is important. You only want 3 sides for your polygon. Hit OK. We have a triangle that's a little bit taller than 1 inch. You go to your transform palette. Make sure that your height and width are constrained. This will constrain the height and width proportions. And go into your height and just make it an even 1 inch tall. And you have your 1 inch tall triangle. Couldn't be simpler. Rounded rectangle. So there is a typo in this JPEG. I am going to excuse me. I'm going to actually match the template instead of following the numbers here. So with my rounded rectangle tool, 0.75 inches wide, 1 inch tall, it says 0.25 corners, but I'm going to make them a little smaller because I think this was mislabeled. There we go. So 1/8 inch corners on my rounded rectangle. The star. There's a specific tool for making stars. Makes your life easy. Radius 1, we want a 5-pointed star. Radius 1 are your outer points. Radius 2 are your inner points of the star. So right now, if I click this, basically I have an upside down star. But if I make my radius 2, my radius 1 larger than my radius 2, then I'm going to have that top point up. Okay? Basically, the radii of these two, you want your inner radius, your radius 2, to be about half of the outer radius. You can grab this corner and scale it down. Hold down Shift to scale it proportionally. You can also go to your transform palette, make sure constrain, width, and height are on, and enter 1 there. And there you go. There's line 1. I would save it. Save early, save often. I'm going to give you guys bookmarks. I'm going to do this all as one video, but I'm going to give you guys bookmarks for the specific times. So I'm going to pause for a second and move on to step 2. Now, step 2 uses something very cool called the Pathfinder palette. Go to Window, Pathfinder. Pathfinder performs mathematical operations on shapes in Illustrator, which sounds really boring, but it's actually a very powerful and very useful tool. So I'm going to give you guys some examples right off the bat. I'm going to just copy this circle and copy this rectangle. And just to make it extra clear, I'm going to make these 2 different colors. So my fill here, I'm going to make this red. My fill here, I'm going to make this green. Oh, my mistake. Make this red. I'm going to copy it a few times so I can show you a few of the things that you can do with the Pathfinder palette. I'm just going to hide the background. Right now I'm just demonstrating it. There are 10 different functions here. I'm going to show you 8 of them. I highly recommend you take a few minutes to explore the Pathfinder palette. It's super useful. So this first one, if you have 2 shapes, you select them both and unite, it makes it one shape. If we go to outline mode, you'll notice all these others are 2 shapes overlapping. This one is one complex shape made from the both. That's unite. This one is minus front. This takes the front item, punches it out of the back item. So if I select those two, do minus front, I get this rectangle with a bite taken out of it. If I, now this depends on your stacking order. So if I have the green, if I have the rectangle in the front and I do minus front, I get this chopped off circle, okay? And it's important to note this is actually changing the shape. This isn't just like a white rectangle laid on top of it. It's actually changed the shape. If I take my 2 here, this is the intersect. This gives me only where the 2 shapes are intersecting, or where they're overlaying each other. So I hit intersect, I get that little sliver of the circle where the 2 shapes were overlapping. This next one is the opposite. Exclude gives me everything but the overlap. It punches out the overlap. So now if I look at this, I have a grouped shape. If I go to my group selection tool, I have that shape and that shape, okay? 2 separate shapes. It punched out the intersection. This next one is the trim. The divide is next. So divide splits it into several pieces. So every intersection becomes its own piece. So you can't really see what happened there at first, but let me give this all a common fill. Give this a blue fill and a yellow stroke, and you will see that I now have 3 different shapes. Okay? That shape, that shape, that shape. And now it's important to note this only deals with the shapes that you have selected. So right now I have this shape overlapping this circle, but if I only have this circle and this rectangle selected, and I do the trim feature, it's not going to worry about this. It's only worrying about the ones you have selected. Trim. What trim did, trim is very much like minus front, except it leaves the front shape. Okay? So what it did is it punched the shape of the circle out of the rectangle behind, but it left the circle there. All right? This one is merge. I don't totally understand merge, honestly. Merge gives you... Merge is very much like trim, and I honestly don't understand the difference. So I'm going to skip over that one. But, you know, anytime you have questions, go to your Illustrator help menu. You can look it up. And this is crop. So what this does, this actually uses the top shape to mask or crop the bottom shape. So now if I so I have 2 shapes now. I have this that is no stroke, no fill, and I have that that's green. Outline gives me just the outlines. It actually outlines these 3 shapes for me, which is a little hard to see right now, but I will make the outline thicker, and you can suddenly see what it's done a little bit better. Okay, so that's your Pathfinder palette. Super useful for building complex shapes out of basic geometric shapes. I use it all the time. So, line 2, we want to do this rectangle with a bite out of it. What I recommend for these is to actually give yourself no fill and a very brightly colored stroke. I like to use magenta just because I can see it really well. And for this one, you would do minus front, and it punches the circle out of the rectangle. Next, you have this sort of pizza slice, which is the intersection of a triangle and a circle. So if we, again, give ourselves no fill and a magenta stroke, and we zoom in a little bit, we can see that this pizza slice is really the intersection of where a triangle and a circle overlap. So if we do intersect, ta-da, as if by magic, we get our pizza slice. This is, of course, the intersection of our rounded rectangle and our regular rectangle, which has been rotated 90 degrees. But we want where they overlap to be punched out. So that one is the exclude filter. Just like that. This last one might seem a little tricky, but I'm sure you're all smart enough to figure it out. So we have our circle and our rounded rectangle, and we want all three pieces. So we want the divide filter. Now, if we hide this for a second, you can see that there's a little line there. And here it's all looks like one solid mass. All right, what's the difference? We simply put a white stroke on it to actually see the three shapes. And that is how you make all the shapes on step 2 with the Pathfinder filter, with the Pathfinder palette, which has many operations inside of it. This is a good place to save it. And in a second, I'm going to do line 3. Line 3 is all of our basic shapes from up top, but we will have moved points. So I'm going to copy all 5 of these down here. Just bring them all down there. I'm going to again give myself no fill, solid stroke, and deselect. Don't have anything selected. Go to your direct selection tool, which is the white arrow. This lets you select individual points of a shape. So the solid black arrow selects the entire shape to move it around. The white arrow selects individual points. You have to click off and deselect. If you go directly from the black arrow to the white arrow, all of your points will still be selected. So you need to click off, deselect, and then select individual points. All right, so that's how I get that shape. I move these 2 points into place. How to turn my circle into an egg, I just move this point over to the right. I bring the apex of this triangle down to make the flattened triangle. This one, I'm going to grab 2 points at once, so this point and this point. I can either draw a selection around them or hold down Shift. And I'm going to drag this over to here. I'm going to nudge this over. I find it very useful sometimes to just nudge points a little bit with the arrow keys on your keyboard. That will just move them 1 point. So I want to grab this, move it up, grab this, move it over, grab this, move it over. And now you may notice that there's a little bump in here. If you click on that and click on this control handle for your curve and bring it so that it's lined up with the angle of this side, you will eliminate that bump and get a smooth curve. Now don't make yourself crazy matching what's underneath absolutely 100% exact. You don't need to do that. You just need to show me that you understand how to make these shapes, how to change these shapes. So again, direct selection tool. I'm going to deform this star by bringing 2 points out, bringing one in. Okay, and there's my line 3. Remove the stroke, make it black. That's the first half of this worksheet, and I'm gonna actually stop this video now and make the second half the second video.